Is that right? 88, 98, 08. Yeah, that's 31 ticks. 31 times 12.5. 387 plus 275. That's 662 in these two moves right here. I'm not counting this one right here. This one here. It was just counting that one and that one. There's another one here. There's another one here. Okay. I just wanted to point that out. That, you know, everything that I do in the live trading room is on a 4-tick range chart, but you don't have to use a 4-tick range chart. Right? You know, in this move right here, we'll say we start right here because this is pretty close to the open, or you could start right here. Okay, at 9:39 you get the close up above there. That was the first one. This was the second one. Actually, this was the first one I looked at. This was the second one, was 31 ticks. Third one would be from right here. 16 up to 50. 16 to 50. Which is that? 34, right? 34 ticks. So you had 31 plus 34, that's 65 ticks. If you started right in here at 9:30. 9:30 to 11, 65 ticks. 65 times 12.5, $812.50 per contract, doing 2 trades. Right, you get a little more for your money there. I just wanted to point all that out to all you guys who were in that meeting yesterday. You know, everything that I do is on the 4-tick range chart, but you don't have to use it on the 4-tick range chart. You can do it on larger time frames too, if that stuff's too fast for you. Okay. And Dwayne is coming back in right now, and hopefully he will be.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay. And you remember what I said about it being trending, so you're not going in both directions? Wait till the black step line is above the BBC, and then just trade on that side. Wait till it's below, and then just trade on that side. Remember?
All right, let's try this one more time, see if it's going to work or not. Yeah, it should work now, because there's 2 of me in there.
Okay. There you go.
There we go. All right. Closing all my browsers down. All right. Okay. So you've answered all the questions in the chat box, everything that's in there?
I have. Yep.
Okay. Very good.
All right. You're welcome, John.
Okay. Let me move that out of the way. And so today for those of you that don't catch the entire radio broadcast live, there'll be 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 was before I left, and part 2 is now that I've come back. Facebook is down 2% today as well. It's session lows. All right. Now, on the S&P 500 E-mini futures, we had a quiet open this week. Let's see, today's Wednesday. So Sunday night was the 19th, which would be right here. It's the 17th, there's the 19th. On the 17th, we closed 3 ticks, or 1 tick. We came within 1 tick on that final bottom line close was 1 tick below the zone. But these zones got to go away because today's Wednesday, and Wednesday's the day I start to share the new zones with the GP, general public. So We'll get rid of those during the show today. Let's go to our good word for the day, and then we'll be back to look at some of these charts. Yesterday, when I was talking about that move down, you'll remember I said this may not be just a straight move. What we may see is a leg, a retracement, and then a leg. It's got a pretty good ways to go. And so that's what we're seeing. Good word for the day. We've been talking about a sound mind. Okay. 2 Timothy 1:7. This is part of 3. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And so you say, well, what is this sound mind that God says he has given us? The original Greek word means sane, rational, logical, realistic, and reasonable. Does that sound like you? Sane, rational, logical, realistic, and reasonable? It includes qualities such as 1, being self-controlled. It's not controlled by anyone or anything outside itself, including people, circumstances, impulses, emotions, intellect, and especially not fear. It stays in control at all times. Even when faced by problems with no easy solutions, it remains anchored to the truth as defined by God and his word. Number 2, being discerning. Now, we're talking about what is this sound mind. Remember, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. What does sound mind mean? Okay, part 2, being discerning. That's a sound mind. It distinguishes wisely between alternatives. It discerns between reality and fantasy, good and evil, effective and ineffective, worthwhile and worthless. It's the faculty that enables us to make good decisions in difficult situations. Being focused. Number 3, like a laser beam, it has the capacity to lock in on a desired target. Like a finely tuned receiver, it can minimize distortion and resist competing sound waves. It limits interference, uncertainty, and confusion. Once it's set on task, a sound mind will help you concentrate your energies on fulfilling the important priorities in your life. 4, being orderly. It is a process-oriented mind. A process-oriented mind operating with cause and effect type logic. It's concerned with getting you from A to B, goal to realization, by a series of orderly steps that contribute to the fulfillment of your purpose. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalm 139:14. Now, this has been a wordy, albeit, but very good description of what a sound mind is. And that last part, being orderly, process-oriented, operating with cause and effect logic, concerned with getting you from A to B, goal to realization, by a series of orderly steps that contributes to the fulfillment of your purpose. That's also a definition of what it takes to become not only successful in life, a good father, a good husband, a good employer, a good employee, but a good trader. Our blueprint, the 2420, it lays it out step by step by step. You don't deviate, You don't look to the left, you don't look to the right. You just look forward and you do the task that's set before you. Okay? Those of you that are working the blueprint, you know exactly what that is. Okay? It's clearly defined. There's no confusion. The God whose mind created you is reflected in the mind he gave you to use. Knowing who you are, now go forward and experience life more abundantly. John 10:10, the New King James Version. The God whose mind created you, now this encapsulates it here. The God whose mind created you is reflected in the mind he gave you to use. Knowing who you are, now go forward and experience life more abundantly. That is our good word for the day. Apply it to your life. Apply it to your job as a dad, as a husband, as an employer, as an employee. Take it to heart as a trader. Okay? The wild, wild west of trading. That's why there's that 90% line. That shoot from the hip mentality. Oh, well here. Let me just get long. That feels good, looks good, seems good. I need to be doing something. I'm a trader. Traders trade. There's a commercial on TV that even encourages that. Traders trade. Well, yeah, they trade when there is a trade, when the time is right, when the opportunity presents itself. But unless you're that rare individual, that swing trader, that position trader, or an investor, if you're an investor, then yeah, but you're an investor, not a trader. Traders spend the smallest amount of time. If you were to take a day in the life of a trader and present it as a pie chart, the smallest slice would be actual time spent in a trade. The rest of the time is spent looking for the opportunities that are worthy of the risk that you have to take to be in the trade. I remember when I started, man, if I didn't have a hook in the water or two hooks, I did not feel alive. Just wasn't right. So if that's where you are, if you're relatively new at this, and if you're eager, and if you have that compulsion, you've got to overcome that. And you can overcome that, okay? You truly can. You can learn patience. You can learn discipline. It may not come naturally, but you can learn it. Those trades that you get into where it's like effortless. You put in your order, it gets filled, it travels to the target, and you go, wow, why can't every trade be like that? Well, there was a perfect storm there. All things came together. You stepped into the flow of opportunity at the moment when there was no obstacle in your path. Price was moving in a certain direction, and you simply flowed right along with that. Okay? Too often, though, when we sit down to take a trade, we want to trade whatever's in front of us right now. And you've heard that said. You've heard us say, oh, we just trade whatever's in front of us. It's true, we do. We trade what's in front of us when the opportunity is proper. Like that chart Michael was just showing you, where the step line needed to be above whatever line he was using, I forget, on the chart. But again, it was waiting until these things align, and then the trade can become effortless. It's when we're fighting all of these different forces, that's when we have issues. Now, on the weekly trading zones, this takes us all the way back into last week. So we're not interested in that. We're interested in this week, which began with the 29th. And so we had weekly zone this week. Get rid of this last week's business. $25, $24. Okay. So the Sunday night Globex Open was right there. Last 3 weeks, we've been able to spot it a mile away because of the huge gap, but not so much. Friday the 17th, Sunday night the 19th, okay? So price ran right up into our weekly trading zone at 24.25, spiked above it a little bit. I'm sorry, it's 25.26. There we go. 25.26. Okay, the next zone below us is, or below that, is right here. And below that, this is the one we're waiting for. $20.98.99. This is the one that yesterday I said, let me get rid of these other ones down below that don't apply to this week. Okay. All right. So there we go. So price opens Sunday night, makes a run, pulls back, weekly zone 17.18, boom, hits 25.26. So that's 7 points up, 7 points back down. So it took a leg and a retrace and a leg to get there. Then it took a leg and then it took a deeper retracement. It came back to test that area for good resistance, and then it made the drop down to the zone. Okay. We hit it and bounced, and now we've made our next drop. And yesterday I said, now this may not go straight to the zone. On the radio show, those that were tuned in, see, even here we had a leg and a retrace, and then we had a leg, then we had a retrace, a deeper retracement. Okay, and where's price still at the moment apparently headed to is down to this 98.99. So we'll keep an eye on that. Big bean numbers 973 and 1028. Let's take a look real quick at a couple of alerts from last night. Oh, I got to get that back open again. You know what? I'll do this and I'll do this. And I'll go find those alerts over here. There we go. Tuesday evening. All right. On the euro, the alert said to consider being short below 109.30. Okay, this is when the alerts came out. They actually came out at 7:15 Eastern, so that's 19:15. Here's the 1900 hour, so I just dropped the line on the 2000 hour. Okay, and so from 109.30 down to where I measured earlier was a 42 tick move. Looks like we dropped a little lower from 930 down to 877. That's close enough. Let me show you a couple more of what happened. Let's see. On bonds, we ran above the 152.25. There's a 22 tick move to the upside. On the Russell, we picked up a point twice on the downside trigger, and we managed to put together on the upside 12, it should be 1250. Is that right? 1250. Yeah, 1250. And so we actually pushed 1250 to 1250.1. but we'll just, there we go. So we had a nice run up here in that first hour when we triggered, made it all the way up to 53.1. Okay, so from 1250 to 53.1, that's 31 ticks. How many do we need? Just 10. Okay, important prices, important areas, almost always tested, and so price closes here, opens here, comes back, resets, triggers, and away it goes again. And then we come back this time, and the swing low here was 1250.30, and so we missed resetting that by 2 ticks. Okay, but the swing high, 1254.70, off of the trigger at 1250, 1250.1. Okay, so 3 times your daily goal in there. Soybeans, I haven't matched those yet. You know what? We'll do this a little bit later. I need to head to Vegas right now. So we're going to go to David right at the top of the hour each and every day. And I just communicated with him that I would be there on time. So I can tell you real quick that on the alert that went out last night, I'm going to have to move all of this over. So anyway, we on soybeans, we were getting short below 998, so we can see how that worked out real nice, getting short below 998, and then getting long above 1010. That hasn't happened yet. All right, so we had a swing high back here of 1009 yesterday. We're looking for 1010 or better on the long side, but from 998 we got to a swing low of 992.75. So if we call it 993, that's 5 points. And what do we need to hit our daily goal? We need 2 cents. 2 cents will do it. 2 cents, 1 penny in the soybeans is equivalent to 1 point in the S&P. So we'll look at crude. We'll look at the other markets. We'll look at gold. We'll do all of that. But for now, we're going to head out to Vegas, talk to David, get his forecast from the edge. Going to pause for a brief station identification, and we'll be right back, so don't go away.
You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310.
You think we don't need you now, we on the way. I thank the Lord for love like ours that grows ever stronger. And I always will be true. I know you feel that same way too.
Good morning, Dwayne.
Good morning, David. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I know we have limited time today. I want to mention that we do have Jerry Fagnant with us today, who's going to join us just whenever you're ready for him to come on.
I'll open up his mic right now.
Okay, fair enough.
Just stand by, Jerry. So how are you doing, David?
I'm doing good. Keeping an eye on the markets, of course, and seeing. You know, we have quite a bit of behavior. This has really been for the middle of the summer. This is very volatile over across the board. You know, the S&P may not be super volatile today, but overall we have some pretty decent volatility.
Okay, Jerry, you've got an open mic. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Dwayne. Good morning, David.
Hey, good morning, Jerry. And how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How's everybody today?
Good. So they reopened the banks in Greece. Now they've not increased the amount of money they can get out, correct? Is that situation resolving itself?
Has not changed as far as I know.
Okay.
Everything is, the constraints are still in place.
And are those going to stay in place once the greater issue is resolved?
My understanding is that once they've got everything buttoned down, that they'll begin to slowly modify those and raise those limitations.
Did people not see this coming?
Not see
The Greek people,
Greece.
did they not see that the potential that the banks would clamp down on their money and say you can't have any, or you can't have, I mean, it's your money, granted, but you can't have it right now. Did the Greek people not see this coming?
Oh no, I'm sure they did see it coming. The money's been pouring out of banks for quite some time.
Okay, I'm just surprised that there was any left by the time
I know.
they put this in place. I guess that's really my surprise in the whole thing.
Yeah, I suppose I can't disagree with that. Why would anybody have left anything in there?
I think a better question is did the Greek people see the whole tragedy coming based on the behavior of their government, which was to spend more than they took in and to entitle more than they could afford? That's really the question. Did they see any of this coming because of the bad behavior of their government? This didn't happen as an act of nature. This is people doing it to themselves. This is people damaging, government people damaging the country of Greece by abusing the national treasury, by not managing the money properly. That's how all of this happened. All of their secondary effects, the banks and so on, are a result of that. It didn't happen from good management. It didn't happen from people doing the right thing. So
no, it came from pretty much what we've talked about, which is continuing to allow citizens to think that we can fund things that we can't fund based on government revenues, but yet continuing to try to meet promises and obligations that are just not realistic. And no different than a mom and a dad who unfortunately at some point in time have to sit down at the proverbial kitchen table when they've had a job loss or a job cut and sit down with the family and say, listen, we've got to tighten our belts. We can't continue to do the things we've enjoyed to do because we've had a change. And in my personal practice, I've seen people get into who have never had debt come to me because they had a sudden, very serious debt problem. And when I look back, I say, geez, what happened? Something happened. Well, yeah, I lost my job or took a serious pay cut 6 months ago. And first question I ask is, did you change your spending habits? No, I didn't. Well, there you go.
Right.
There you go.
There it is.
There it is. Mystery solved. And that's really it in a nutshell. Years and years and years of, yes, government not being in a position to say no, or not wanting to put themselves in a position to say no.
Politically, their whole system is designed to pay more out than they take in. That was what the problem was. The system is that way.
Yeah, that is the system. And then we could make the argument that is virtually every government around the globe pretty much functioning in the same way.
Yeah. I mean, everyone knows at some point the same thing that happened to Greece is going to happen to America if we don't straighten out our spending behavior, because we only have so much we can do before things start to crumble and collapse. But we don't have there's no end in sight right now from anything that I can see. And I don't know, Jerry or Dwayne or anybody else that can point me in a direction that says things are getting better with regard to our debt and the very thing that could crush and literally ultimately destroy the United States of America, as hard as that may be to believe. Is there anything happening? Are we going in the right direction suddenly now, or is everything full spend ahead?
No, we continue to baffle the American people basically with big numbers that they just can't get their hands around. So, when politicians tell them, listen, we're going to cut, we're going to cut $50 billion, $100 billion out of the budget, and we're going to do that over the next 10 years, so we're going to do that. They don't realize that is a proverbial drop in a bucket. That, when you're running a $2 trillion annual operating budget, that when you cut out $50 billion here or $50 billion there, that's really not going to save you from yourselves. That in order to do that and have a balanced budget, which we haven't had since the one instance in the Clinton administration. Outside of that, we haven't had a balanced budget amendment in decades and decades. I don't know any family or any business that can't function, that can function when they have an imbalance between revenue and expenses.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a balanced budget. God forbid you should have a surplus. And pay down your debts.
Why is that
Reg makes a good point. You talk to any teacher in Canada that has retired at age 50 on full pension, and she or he, I suppose, will militantly be defensive of their pension if you suggest that it isn't sustainable.
Absolutely.
You would think a teacher would be very competent in basic math, and basic math tells you that certain things can't just go on forever.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, they'd be right. Basic math doesn't lie. You can't go on forever. And the only way that a taxing authority can do that is to just continue to raise taxes to meet those obligations. And in the end, that's what gets done.
John W. offers this debt. In regards to the debt, future socialists will nationalize the U.S. oil industry to reduce the danger of a real debt collapse. Can you see that happening here in America?
Nationalizing the
I'm not
oil.
sure I understand that.
Hmm.
They're going to nationalize the oil companies to make sure that there isn't a debt crisis.
John, you want to take a stab at explaining that? I think I know where you're headed with that. But
I would assume he would mean that. I would assume he would mean by nationalizing the vast profits of the oil companies, because it's a commodity that people must spend money on, that will just nationalize those companies, take their profits, and utilize
them over. Yeah, take
them over.
That's what he means.
The opposite of privatization, nationalism.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, like Venezuela is, many countries where their oil industry is their national source of revenue is really what he's referring to, and just that would be that would be a heck of an accomplishment if they could pull that off without a real revolution on their hands. What's next?
Burwell offers, it's going to happen here in the U.S. based upon our politicians doing exactly what the Greek politicians have done. Considering our media, the odds favor the American people not seeing it coming are pretty good. That's true. That's very true, Burwell. Now, there'll always be those who try to make their voices heard, the Ron Pauls of the world and others. I don't know that I agree with everything Ron has to say, but a lot of the things he has to say makes a whole lot of sense. But the vast majority of the population probably has no idea what he thinks or stands for. They've seen that quirky little billboard that was those hand-drawn, it was like Revolution, love spelled backwards or something. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Do they have those where you live, Jerry?
I have not seen that.
Oh, what was those? Ron Paul Revolution. It was
I suppose my issue with the American people is that we lead busy lives. We like to keep our head in the sand and not really take the time to understand, because it's a complicated subject. We don't take the time.
Yeah, you never saw that before?
No.
Revolution with love spelled backwards.
Yeah, haven't seen that.
Oh gosh, those things are all over Phoenix, and they're hand drawn.
Yeah. Well, I live in Massachusetts, a traditionally deep blue state, so
they don't allow that kind of foolishness there. Okay.
Well, yeah, Ron Paul, unfortunately, no threat up here, so there. I wish, but in any event, it's just a function of, it's a very complex, very difficult subject to get people to understand. When Romney was running against Obama, there were so many polls, one of which would just say, who do you want running your investment portfolio? If you owned a business, which person do you want running the business? And they clearly were picking Romney way above Obama. They know that he got it, but they couldn't understand and grasp the size of the numbers, and they just confused. And so it boiled down to, because it's such a confusing subject and he said, she said, no, you're lying, the numbers aren't that bad, these are the numbers, no, these are the numbers, that the American people basically just threw up their hands and ended up voting, at least the last go around, more on social issues than they do the financial aspect of it. And that's just the reality until we really educate the people and put the books out there honestly and openly. And this is how the system really functions. This is how bad things are. This is the truth. People can grasp that. Yeah, but we got to do a better job of that.
Burwell suggests if we want to reform government, we need to abolish the seniority system in Congress. I don't see that happening, but I agree. James in Florida, there's no palatable solution to our financial crisis. The only candidate who could solve the problem would have to run on a platform that offends everyone. Guess what the chances of such a person getting elected is?
He must be talking about Donald Trump.
Well, he's still another Republican announced yesterday. I forget who it was.
John Kasich.
Yeah. So how many does that make now? I mean,
17 something?
16, 17 official.
16 or 17.
Yeah. Official.
And Donald Trump is gathering. I mean, he's got all the attention. None of these guys can get any news with Trump up there doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's very, loud and boisterous and so on. But people do respond to Donald Trump because what we've had is weakness, exemplified in this administration's handling of various things. And Donald Trump is very different. He's the exact opposite pole. He's not going to let people run roughshod over America. He's not going to apologize for American greatness. He's not going to try to appease other countries by giving them what they want or giving them some kind of a deal. He's going to make deals that are in the best interest of the United States of America, which is what every country should be doing, is trying to work their best deal in their best interest, and so on. But we're not doing that. We are doing things that seem almost exactly opposite, that we're making deals in the best interest of other countries, not of the United States. And so we have a very peculiar administration. This United States I don't think has ever seen anything like what this administration has brought to the table. It's a very peculiar set of conditions, and those conditions have to do with a worldview, an outlook, a kind of sanguine, must punish the productive, quasi-socialist viewpoint that indeed this president has. He wants to take from the rich and give to the poor. He wants to take from everyone and give it to the government. He wants to give other countries, precedent over us. Everything he does is counter to America getting back on track. Just the nature of the beast. If you don't think that that's correct, then you must be somebody that believes very much like what he believes, because he certainly is not mainstream in his beliefs. He certainly is not. The world is the most dangerous place it has ever been, and instead of cutting entitlements and nonsense in the government, he's cutting the military down by a third. A person could make the argument that he's chipping away at all the different things that make America great in order to have us in a weakened position where something worse could happen and the real remake of America then begins. So.
Well, gentlemen, let's go to the markets.
Sure.
S&P 500, Emini futures. David, any comments? Guys, if you have any questions about any of the different markets, go ahead, get them into the chat box right now, and we'll take them one by one. David, any comments for the S&P?
Yeah, we're watching the S&P along with everyone else, of course. Having sold off, they got themselves into a much stronger position a few days ago. An argument could be made, I suppose, that what we saw a couple days ago was really more related to the options expiration, perhaps. But either way, you have to look at it as it's a real market. They closed above some important levels, and now we're back below those levels. That is a weaker position. There's no question about it. We're still in the strongest possible position in the big picture, but we just got back below some important levels, and that puts the market in a weaker position near term. If we close today above 2103, 2104, that is a decent close for today. It's not great, but it's a decent close. If we close today below 2103, 2104, that changes the tone of the market and expresses some more weakness. So right now, under normal conditions, we would see the market firm up on 2103, 2104, and they would at least attempt to get back up to, roughly 2109, 2110-ish area. And we'll see. That's what we're using this for, is to see and judge how the market treats these different things that are the normal things for the market to do. If they don't treat them well, then we can start making more statements about where the market might go and so on. So that's basically the S&P. I do have a few other comments on some other markets as well if you want. Dwayne, is your other guest coming on at 10:30 Pacific?
Yeah, so we've still got 10 minutes. So what market would you like to go to? Did you have some
I might
charts
as well
you wanna...
show some charts, because
Okay.
with that I can talk about those markets a little bit. And
All right.
we have a few interesting things this
Here you
week
go.
kind of picked up a little bit. This is the S&P in the center here. This was yesterday with the market trading at 2113. We indicated that the market would go down, worst case, into Thursday, plus or minus a day, and test 2103. And so from 2113 to 2103. And today the Globex session got down, as you can see, to 2102.25, but the pit session got down to 2103.25, and we're still bouncing off of that. This is today's gap opening without the Globex in there. So this was a decent move that the market completed. Let me turn this around for you. Okay, stay with me 1 second here. Okay, let's see, over here we had this morning, this was another sign of some early kind of inherent weakness, was that we were looking for the market at 2110 to get up to 2113. This was just a very small, very minimalist type of trade, but they were not able to, and when they got up to 2112, we indicated that the market was in profit-taking territory, and you can see that they sold off quite strongly. I've shown this many, many times, how the market will sell off pretty strong from a number that it cannot reach. This is part and parcel to our method, but you can see it. We've shown it over and over and over again. A couple others over here on the right. This is a stock. We also do stocks, of course. This is Harman International. This was back on June 30th. We were looking for any breakout below 118. This is a $118 stock. Should be shorted for a decline to 104 to 105. And this is them breaking the 118 level. This is about 116 here. And then we had a multi-day, multi-week even, this is a daily chart, decline. And just 2 days ago, they made a low of 105.40, which completes the 104, 105 downside target that we are referring to here. A couple others here, Dwayne, and we'll have a few. Some of these will be markets people are asking about. This was the S&P just on Monday. I just want to make a note of this. We were looking for the S&P to touch 2123 during that session's 6th hour. Now, this was important. At this time, the market was trading roughly around that area. They rallied up, and in the 6th hour, they sold off and made a low of 2123. They went lower than that, but this is where we were expecting them to touch in that time. And that's part of the unique part of our work, is that the markets can be not only timed, but they can be shown to be in a specific position at a specific point in the future. A couple others here I'll go through real briefly. This is another stock. This is FANG, F-A-N-G, Diamondback Energy. On Thursday, July 2nd, we were looking for FANG to be shorted at approximately $73 for a decline to $70 to $69. And this is that decline underway right here. We did make a low of 67.56. So that was a nice swing down in FANG. U.S. Treasury bonds. This was Tuesday. Buy bonds at 152.08 for an advance to 152.28 to 152.30. And although the markets moved higher than that, this was the long entry right here. They certainly advanced, pulled back some. This is a 60-minute chart. And then today completed the 153 upside target. bonds really had a nice advance. They've got a lot going on. We've got a few others. This is Amazon, the stock that we don't talk about it, but we talk about the company. On July 7th, a daily close above $439. This is an expensive stock. In Amazon is an immediate buy for substantially higher prices. They closed here at $443, and you can see this certainly is substantially higher prices. We took partial profits yesterday at $488. This is a very large move that's underway right now in Amazon.com, looking for possibility now of higher prices. But as always, we're going to use protective stops and so on. Another stock, Occidental Petroleum, sells short upon any daily close below 77 for an important decline. This was the daily close below 77, and they exit partial positions the other day at $70.22, and we're still heading lower here. Some of these stocks are showing you the exact principle that we've talked about in our upcoming Square course. So you may want to keep track on that. This was the bonds the other day. Prior to this rally that we're currently long in, we shorted the market at 151.18 for a decline we felt was going to be deeper than this, but we took some profits at 150.102. The market bottomed at 150.31. They then stopped us out of our position, roughly a break even or a little better, and then we went long again right here at 152.08. And we rolled that up to 152.30, and then we're long again now this morning for yet again higher prices. And we'll see if they can get to those higher prices. They almost touched them already, so there's a little concern on our part that we may have already seen their best attempt, but probably not. So that is some of the stuff that we're following doing. I'll send this back to you, and if you want to check out what we're doing, you can come to pagetrader.com. and call us also at 888-231-4702. 888-231-4702. So Dwayne, if they have any questions on any other market that we didn't cover there, most of that was stocks. I wanted to catch up on some of our stock work.
Let's see. I had a question in here about bonds. Where did that go? Yeah, Luca had asked, what about the bonds?
Well, yeah, I just showed the bonds, and we've been trading them, and we think that that normally higher prices would be coming. I don't mind telling you the target. The target on the upside was 153.19, 18 to 19 on the upside, and they got up to 153.15. If the bond market was really, really weak, they would not be able to quite complete that up on the upside. But I'm still of the belief that we're probably going to see those higher prices. And so I'm pretty comfortable with them as they're trading right now, even though they're pulling back. I'm pretty comfortable that this is still normal behavior. So we're kind of looking for higher prices in bonds.
Yeah, we've been kind of sideways here since May. I mean, we've had some ups and downs, but this is a daily chart.
Sure.
But we're inching our way back up to the top of this range. The top of the range would be 155.27, or just call it 155. Call it 156. Anything back above 156 would indicate a change of direction. Let's see if I can shrink this thing down a little bit. Yeah, it's not going to give me much to work with. But anyway, we had a leg down, then a retracement, and then a leg down, and then retracement, and we didn't put in enough of a lower low to be very meaningful. And then this deeper retracement, this starts to look like, we're going to try to build some legs in the other direction. But then this pullback brought us, so we've tested this bottom now, 1, 2, 3. So that definitely looks like a transition to me, just looking at the chart, just looking at what price is doing. And so, did you say you were looking for higher prices or no?
We are somewhat higher prices from here. We still think are likely. We've been in this, on the long side from yesterday twice now, and we think that this goes along with the idea that the market will run to the numbers that it needs to run to in spite of overbought or oversold indications. If it has numbers it needs to run to, it will. So far, yes, we are looking for somewhat higher prices to continue in bonds here. I have a little bit of concern about today's high, but not enough to get us out of this position. I think we're going to continue to hold potentially through tomorrow. And I do want to say also for other markets, I know we're running out of time here, but between today and Friday, there's quite a bit of energy, if you will, cycles, whatever you want to think of them as, coming together for a number of markets. So I think the end of this week, Thursday and Friday, are going to be pretty important for considering that we're in the dead middle of summer, where volatility is normally completely absent and or very much absent. So we've had a pretty good run here, all of us, with the volatility, and we have some decent moves that the markets are making. I'm very happy to see this. This is the second summer we've seen this. Last summer, you remember, we had a very good volatile summer, and we had a very, very good volatile last quarter, didn't we? So hopefully we'll see that same thing this year as well, because summer has not been the doldrums that it normally can be seasonally. Well, Dwayne, I see it's 10:30.
Yeah, it is. Let me give you a couple quick questions. Sue asks, what's your position on gold? And then Jason wants to know what your thoughts are on crude.
Well, my position on gold is that we do have into Thursday through Monday some interesting forces at work potentially. I don't have the time to get into all of it right here, but we're possibly going to be doing something with gold. But I don't have it all worked out yet, so we're working on that. The other market they asked for was crude. Our people have been short over the last several days for the further decline that we've been seeing here. We're looking at crude with the possibility, again, that the next couple of days leading into Monday, there's actually quite a bit of energy that is theoretically going to enter that market. And I'll go into more details about that tomorrow. We just gave out some of this today. So, but I think that's why I'm saying I think the end of this week potentially has a lot going for it with regards to, trading this and seeing what we can all do with it. Whether you're trading long-term or short-term, whatever your scale is, if the volatility is decent, you can get what you're trying to get done in the markets. And that's a beautiful thing with skill and with your stops and with all the usual stuff that you need to have to be successful.
Yeah, volatility well managed is a trader's best friend, but times of no volatility, it's a very dangerous time to attempt to trade the market. If you don't know how to manage volatility, that's of course dangerous because the wide swings will take you out. But when when the flow of opportunity just dries up to nothing more than a drip, we start to imagine things, see things that maybe aren't there, start trading on hope, and you just have to learn the discipline and patience to let the market wake up and get moving again. I mean, This is hourly. We've had some incredible hourly swings in crude. Today was crude inventory, so you kind of got to throw this hour out. Can't really. That's an anomaly unto itself because of the inventories. But now things are back to normal. We've been trending down, and once we got the craziness of the crude inventories out, we're right back to doing the same thing, and that's working our way down. So, okay. Well, Jerry, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it very much. David, thank you for joining us. As always, we'll see you tomorrow here, same time, same place.
Very good, Dwayne. Thanks. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you here tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right, guys, we're going to go to Jim, and we're going to chat with him about whatever he wants to talk about. Jim's going to join us every Wednesday moving forward at this time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, to get my time right, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30. Yeah, that's right, 1:30. 1:30 to 2:30-ish, however long we have. Let me get over here and get your mic opened up, Jim. Today's his maiden voyage, so see if he's here. I assume he is, Jim. I'm going to open your mic right now. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Now, I might need to see. You're on a headset, or do you have a different type of mic setup?
I'm on a headset.
Okay, but you just got much clearer. Well, you were clear, but now your audio just popped up as well.
I moved the microphone over next to my mouth.
Amazing how the simple things sometimes are the best. So how you doing, man?
I am doing well. How are you doing today?
Good, good, good. You got that email I sent you yesterday afternoon?
I did. I appreciate it. Thank you, and
Yeah.
pass the information on.
Okay, hopefully that's all taken care of now.
It is. It is all taken care of. She checked on it today.
Okay, great. So tell me, well, you know what? A lot of our audience, folks that aren't CFRN partners, may not know who you are. And as I jokingly called you White Bar Jim the other day, now you were on the radio show for about 30 minutes on June the 12th. To me, that date has stuck in my mind because we had one of the other partners on during the live trading room that day, and then you came on for about 30 minutes that same day on the radio show. So why don't you, I don't know, how deep you want to get into your own personal story, so why don't I just let you kind of introduce yourself to the audience, because Jim will be with us every Wednesday now. He's committed to spending an hour talking with us about markets, world events, news, whatever's in the headlines, whatever you have questions about. Jim is a trader. He trades for a living, but he has a very, very interesting background. So maybe just take a few minutes, Jim, and introduce yourself and give people an idea of who you are and how you got from where you've been, which again is a very colored history, and to where you are now, sitting here talking on the radio with me.
Okay. Well, let me first preface everything by saying I am by far no expert at anything. I know a little bit about a lot, and I've got strong opinions about other things.
Okay.
So I'll preface that. I'm a retired homicide detective. I went into law enforcement back in 1985. I left in 2005. I took my 20 years and got out of law enforcement. I was a homicide detective. I'm in the St. Louis area, and in the St. Louis area there's a unit called the Major Case Squad. The Major Case Squad is a multi-jurisdictional task force comprised of detectives from, I don't know what the number is anymore, but it used to be around 100, 120 different jurisdictions. And the way the Major Case Squad would work, it is very difficult for a small police department or law enforcement agency to conduct a quality homicide investigation. So the Major Case Squad would take a detective from one department and another department, and they generally put together a team of detectives to investigate a homicide. Any member of the law enforcement within the St. Louis area, any jurisdiction, could call out the Major Case Squad to investigate a particular homicide within their jurisdiction. There's several guidelines that they would have to meet in order for the Major Case Squad to take the investigation. One of the big things was the Major Case Squad did not take an investigation if that jurisdiction had already started their own investigation, ran out of leads, and decided, hey, let's dump this on the Major Case Squad and see what they can do. We had to be called as soon as the body was discovered, and we had to be the initial investigating unit. We wouldn't take over somebody else's start, because a lot of times they would start it wrong, or they would do something wrong, or they'd contaminate evidence. So we wanted it from the get-go. So I worked with that unit for about 9 years of my career. I was on the Major Case Squad when I left law enforcement in 2005. I retired in 2005. My father was suffering from cancer. He had been in remission a couple of times, and it had come back with a vengeance. So he was actually running a private business, and I went into business with my father. I expanded his business a little bit. He had a bail bond business. It's kind of ironic. I was putting him in jail, and he was getting him back out. But I went into that business and opened up a private investigation business alongside that. I worked with my father from 2005 until 2010. He passed away. The cancer finally metastasized to his brain and took him. I continued the business on until December of last year. I was approached by a gentleman in the St. Louis area, and he expressed some interest in buying my company, and he threw out a number, and I was very excited about it. I tried to hold my emotions back, but I went ahead and sold the business. And the entire time I had been doing some trading in the background, trying to learn how to do this and supplement my retirement. I spent a fortune on different companies. and really had no consistent success. I may have a good day and followed by 3 or 4 bad days, or a couple days good, and it was just not consistent. So when I found CFRN, I was pretty excited about it. Like Dwayne says, everybody blows up their accounts. I blew up several accounts until getting with CFRN. And even with CFRN, when I first started in the simulator, I was blowing up accounts because I was used to some old bad habits that I had to break. And one of those bad habits was when I'd get close to my stop out, I'd move the stop out, or I'd double my contracts, and hopefully the market would turn on me, but it never did, and that's where you wind up losing an absolute fortune. Now my stops are cast in stone or concrete or iron, or however we want to do it. No matter what is happening with the market, I don't touch that stop. It stays right there. So anyway, getting back to me, I sold my business in December of 2014, and now I trade 2-3 hours a day. I spend time in the evening going through my charts. I spend time before I trade with God, and I've had some very good success. In doing the CFRN trading, I originally started with the black and orange indicators, and then I dug the CFTCs out of the closet, as Dwayne says. I knocked the dust off, and I started playing with those in March of this year, and that's when I first discovered the white bar trade. Before I go into the white bar, I'll throw it back to you, Dwayne. Is there anything you want to ask?
Well, yeah, on a personal level, after being 20 years in your job, in your profession, I respect that you wanted to go and help your father and work with him in his business. That had to be, well, I would think that would have to be a difficult break after 20 years, was it?
Not really. I put family above and beyond everything else.
Okay.
God and family are the two most important things in my life.
Right.
And unfortunately, being on the major case squad for so long, seeing so many homicides, so many deaths, so many heinous things that one person can do to another, you start getting very cold and callous, and that spills over into your personal life. And I was at a point in my life where, things that should bother me didn't. Things that would upset a normal person, to me, I found humor in them. So I thought, what, this is changing who I am. This is changing my personality. At that point in my life, I had not found God yet. And, I thought I walked on water. I thought I did no wrong. And I've had some humbling experiences since that time. And I put him at the top of the list. And it was not a difficult transition. It was time to move on. I had enough of my pension. I took my pension. We talked about pension on the radio the other day. And fortunately, in local law enforcement in the St. Louis area, at the time, they were in what was called a pool system, where several different municipalities and cities all pooled their money into a single retirement program. Mm-hmm. However, back in, and I'm not going to be exact on the year, but somewhere around 99, 2000, they came to all of us and they asked us at that time if we wanted to stay in the pool system or if you wanted to pull your money out and invest it into mutual funds or into your own IRA. So I had taken my money and I invested it into my own IRA, which was doing really well until the big crash in 2008, 2009, and lost an absolute fortune. But I did have my pension. I was able to take it with me, and it's doing okay. So that was the reason I left. But getting back to your question, no, it was not a difficult transition. It was time to go, and I think that I knew that at the time.
Did you have a partner that you worked with on a day-to-day basis?
Well, yes and no. As a road officer, you're in the car by yourself. Okay. I was on what's called a overlay squad. In the overlay squad, we had partners that we worked with. We had specific functions that we did. As a uniformed officer, I was on the streets primarily getting guns and drugs off the streets. When I moved into the detective bureau and applied for the major case squad, you do have a partner that you work with on a daily basis, but that partner changes periodically depending on the needs of the squad and the needs of the department. Mm-hmm. For instance, if I was working on homicides, there's specific detectives assigned to homicide. If I was doing crimes against persons or property crimes, those are particular detectives assigned to those particular units. So it would really depend. But they shook us up probably every 3 to 6 months with a different partner just to get a different perspective, so you didn't get burned out, or especially if you had a personality issue with the partner that you had.
Right. Well, okay, so I guess that brings me to TV. I guess all roads lead back to TV. How much of what we see on TV, because it seems as though every popular show on TV, it's either it's about attorneys or police officers or something to do with the medical field. Now, various programs on TV like, there's one that's popular now. Kara Sedgwick just left that show, but it's carried on. I want to think that's called Major Cases, or I don't know. But then there's the one with Tom Selleck in it. That's called. What's that show called? Someone in the audience help me out.
Blue Bloods. I think it's Blue Bloods you're
Blue
talking
Bloods.
about.
Yeah. Where the whole family, it's the family business being in law enforcement. I mean, just over the years, I'm sure you, or maybe you being a police officer, stayed away from those shows. I don't know. But how close are any of those shows to the reality of what it's like to be out on the street?
You have to understand those shows are solely for the purpose of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
There's a show out, I don't know if it's still on or not, it was called The First 48.
Yeah. My wife watches that, and I watch it sometimes with her.
Sure, that's got a realistic spin to it. That's probably the closest that you'll have to actual law enforcement. Now, I'll date myself a little bit, but if you go back in time to remember the old show Hill Street Blues?
Yeah, I do remember that. That was a good show.
Hill Street Blues was pretty much modeled after uniformed road officers. Not so much in the detective aspect of it, but uniformed road officers. As far as like CSI or LS, what's the other one? Crime Victims, whatever it is, SUV or what? I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I know what you're talking about. Those.
Law and Order. Law and Order.
Yeah. Okay, now the CSI. I know that's a little far-fetched. A lot of that technology that they show on TV, while it may exist in some far corners of the world, that technology is not available to every officer on the street. So
I don't know who it's available to. I think it's all available to the Starship Enterprise or something. I've never heard of any of that stuff.
It's a lot of fiction there. But Law and Order, what about that? Now that's a show that stood the test of time. Is there any actuality behind that?
Well, again, it's entertainment. Now, Law and Order, if I'm not mistaken, I don't watch that show, but that's the one that takes it from the police side of it to the prosecutor side of it to the court, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the process is the way the process works, but I don't know how much reality there is, because it seems like in that show, the same detective that's involved in the case is involved in the prosecution. It's involved in the sentencing, the whole bit, and it just isn't that way.
It is. Oh, okay. Yeah, because like it's an hour show, and so 30 minutes will be the detectives figuring out who done it, and then the second 30 minutes of the hour program will be the prosecutor, taking them to court and convicting them. And it seems as if those police officers or the detectives involved spend an awful lot of time in court. Did you spend a lot of time in court?
Not a lot, and the way the system works in reality, and I'll just quote the St. Louis area. Anything I talk about is obviously going to be germane to me living in the St. Louis area. When we'd be called on a crime, I'll just walk you through the very beginning to the very end. Let's say that a person, and we'll just use for simplicity, we'll use a stealing case, or burglary. Someone's calls the police and says my home was broken into. A uniformed officer goes out to the home, takes the initial police report, documents the items that are taken, any possible suspects, any dramas or traumas that the families have with anybody else that could be a possible suspect. The uniformed officer documents all of that in his police report or her police report, and then it goes to the detective bureau. The detective assigned to property crimes, burglary being a property crime, and just for here's one of those opinion things I like to throw out. There is a huge difference between a burglary and a robbery. When someone says that my home was robbed, a home cannot be robbed. A burglary is a breaking and entering. A robbery is taking something from a person by force. So on TV, when you hear someone say my home was robbed or my car got robbed, you'd think that the media and the movie makers would figure out that's the wrong word they're using. But anyway, I digress. So anyway, the uniformed officer takes the report. It goes to the detective bureau. The detective then reads the report. If there's any suspects that are identified in the report, the detective will go and talk with them. If they can't...
Jim, I just lost your audio. Audience, can you still hear Jim, or is it just me? Carson, can you hear me? She cannot hear Jim. Okay, let me shoot Jim a text message and let him know that we lost his audio. Hopefully he's got his phone by his side. Here, I can just speak it because this is lost your audio. Man, that's so Dick Tracy. Talking to my phone and just converts it to text. Walkie-talkie. So we have another. I see we have another celebrity in the audience today. Looks like Mike B. Oh, was that something you typed in earlier? No, that was just a few minutes ago. So Michael B, you gonna come in and chat with us, or are you just gonna hang out in the background? I don't think anybody. He was robbed. That's right. He was robbed of his. Here, let me send him a text. He may not have his phone by his side, so let me send him a text message the other way. Send a chat message. We lost your audio. He's probably talking away. Probably has no idea that we lost him. That happens. Hey, Reg, that's a good idea. Well, I sent him 2 text messages, so Reg says, well, why don't you throw up a billboard? Okay. I'll do it. Jim, we lost your audio. I gotta blow it up real big so he'll see it. There you go. Let's try logging out and come back in. I had issues earlier, but my issues was with the chart. All right, so Michael B, I saw you type in a comment there. Are you in the background? Do you have audio? Can you come out and chat? Huh? All right, guys, stand by. See if I can get a hold of him. Oh, Jim, I just saw your message that says you're back. Did you get muted somehow? Let me look. Hang on, buddy. Oh, when you came back in, yeah, you were automatically muted. Let's try it again. You there?
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Oh, my. I was texting you. I put a billboard up here. I didn't know if you saw that. But
I was just rambling on. How much did you hear?
Oh, God. You got, and that's what I told people. I said, you know what? I bet he's still talking, doesn't realize. It was Reg who had the idea to throw up the billboard. So anyway, we heard you were talking about the difference between being robbed, a robbery, and a burglary, and that's where we lost you.
Holy cow! I rambled on for a long time after that.
All right.
Sorry.
All right. So let's
here.
go back. Okay, hello.
Oh, hey, Mike. Michael B is in the audience, so I just invited him to come in and chat with me because we had lost your audio. I didn't know when you'd be back. So.
Okay.
I got
Well, you're back. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Mike. How's it going?
All right. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you.
So Jim was walking us through a little bit of Mike, just in case you're there hanging out in the background. He's walking us a little bit through his history of, what brought him up to this point in time and trading. And I see some questions are coming in about trading. But you were talking about the difference between. I'd ask you about the TV shows. Of course, everybody's favorite was Barney Miller. That was, we know, totally unrealistic, but pretty doggone funny. You talk about dating yourself with Hill Street Blues. I think Barney Miller. It's probably about the same time frame. But anyway, pick up with where you left off.
Okay, so the robbery and the burglary, the difference was with the burglary, someone has broke into your house and stole something or stole a piece of property from you, where the robbery is actually stealing from the person with some level of force. A purse snatching is considered a robbery. Someone sticking a gun in your face and taking your wallet, that's considered a robbery. So getting back to the burglary, let's say that someone calls law enforcement and says that my home has been broken into.
Mm-hmm.
A uniformed officer goes out to the house, takes the initial police report, documents the items taken, any possible suspects, the time of the crime, and they'll do an area canvass going from door to door to identify anyone that may have seen or heard anything. The uniformed officer documents that information in their police report. That report then goes to the detective bureau, and a detective assigned to property crimes or to burglary will be the one that investigates that particular crime. Let's say that the person has identified one of the son's friends as a possible suspect.
Mm-hmm.
You run this person, you find out he's got an extensive criminal history, he's got burglary in his past, he's sold some items at a pawn shop that match the items that were taken in the burglary. You put a wanted out for the person. Well, first the detective will try to go and arrest him at his home or place of employment. Detective can't find him. He then puts a wanted in the computer. So if this person is ever stopped on a traffic violation or tries to get his driver's license or has any contact with law enforcement and they run his name, it shows up that there's a wanted. Once the person is brought into custody, the detective has 24 hours in which to interview the individual, complete his investigation, and get an arrest warrant. Let's say that he interviews the individual and the guy is smart enough not to say anything, so the detective has to make his case solely on the evidence. He's not going to get a confession or any evidence from the defendant. At the end, it's getting close to the 24-hour mark. The detective either has to release him or go and get an arrest warrant. So the detective takes all of his reports. He goes to the warrant officer at the prosecuting attorney's office, lays out the case, and then the prosecuting attorney makes a decision whether or not to make an arrest warrant. If the arrest warrant is issued, the person is then stays in custody, has a bond set that they can be released on bond, and is given an initial court date, which is called a preliminary hearing. The preliminary hearing is where the prosecutor, the defense attorney, and the judge all meet. The prosecutor lays out the case. The defense attorney does a quick reason why or why this case should be dismissed, and then the judge decides whether or not the case should be bound over for trial. In the St. Louis area, 95% of cases are bound over for trial. So at that point in time, you've got an initial trial date set for 6-8 weeks down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And Dwayne, I'll keep checking in with you, make sure you can hear me. So I'm still on,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay. So 6-8 weeks down the road, when you initially get put on the docket, the St. Louis area is based on a docket system. So let's say you're number 120. Your case is not going to get heard on that particular day until you're in the top 10, usually number 8. So until you work your way down, you get continued. Your initial case might not be for 6 or 8 months down the road before you even get in for your initial trial setting. So you're locked up that entire time if you can't post your bond. So once you do get your trial date, it goes to trial much like they show on TV. The prosecutor lays out their case, the defense tries to break their case, and then the judge and jury decide if the person did the crime or not. So on TV, when you see the case go from beginning to end in an hour show, this is a monthly, sometimes yearly long process before it ever gets resolved.
Well, yeah, because like on Law and Order, when they'll show when they go from one court scene to another, it'll say, I forget how they word it, but it'll be like part 21, and then it'll be part 42, and so yeah, I mean, it stretches out, and so it seems to me like, these detectives who are having to be in court to verify or corroborate whatever's being said by the prosecuting attorney, I'm like, when do they ever have time to be detectives? I mean, because it seems as though they spend so much time in court. But you only have to show up on the day that. So, okay, I think I get an idea of how it works.
Well, you'll get a notice. You'll get a subpoena from the courthouse. It's sent to the police department, and then they're back out to the officers for their particular dates. So if you've got a subpoena for January 10th, you just call the prosecutor and you say, hey, is it going to make it? Is this going to happen on January the 10th? They say, no, we're continued until February 20th or something. So then you disregard that and you wait till the 20th. So once you call the prosecutor each time, you can find out what number that person is on the docket, and the prosecutor will tell you, hey, yeah, the case is going to go. It's going to happen on June the 15th. I need you here between 1 and 1:30, because once the docket is set, they know about how long each case is going to take based on past experience. So they can tell you, we're going to need your testimony between 1 and 1:30.
Gotcha.
So you get there a few minutes before 1, you give your testimony, and out the door you go. So you're not really in court that long. You just basically tell what you did. And you have to stay long enough for the defense attorney to cross-examine you.
Right.
And then at that point, the prosecutor will ask, we're finished with Detective Cox. Will you need him for any further testimony? The defense says, I'd like to recall him, or no, I will not. If you're recalled, the judge will let you go, but you have to come back.
So did you ever work any cases where you got like intimately involved, where, I don't know, you got to know the people, you were doing the detective work, I mean, we see a lot of that on TV where the officers get personally invested in solving this crime and seeing it through from beginning to end. Is that not so much how it really plays out?
Yes and no. When you're in law enforcement and you're working in a particular area, you become familiar with a lot of people, and your local business owners and people that call you on a regular basis. You start to form a relationship and a friendship with those type of people. You don't really have a whole lot of friendly relationship with your defendants. I mean, you start having defendants that are repeat defendants, and you start knowing them, and you start knowing who they are and why they do what they do. And there are the ones that you kind of take under your wing. You think, you know what, I can probably turn this person around, and you talk with them, you talk with the family, but for the most part, those are few and far between. You don't really have these intimate relationships with people on a crime by crime basis, but there are some that you do develop relationships with.
Like, did you ever work a case where maybe a child went missing or something like that, and so the parents are checking in with you every couple weeks or a couple months? Has there been any breaks in the case, any new evidence? Were you involved in anything like that?
Back in 1993, the Major Case Squad is designed as a multi-jurisdictional homicide task force. However, there was a young girl that was abducted, and I won't use any names on the radio,
Sure.
But there was a young girl that had been abducted, and then 2 days later, a day or two later, I can't remember the exact time, but a day or two later, another girl was abducted. So we thought that there might be a serial killer on the loose, so that the Major Case Squad did take that investigation. Normally, they don't take the investigation until there is obviously a body, because you can't identify if it's been a homicide or not. So in that particular case, it didn't happen in the city that I was working in, but I was called out as part of the investigative force. And that was a situation where we did work with the family very closely. Of the first girl, it turned out not to be a serial. It just happened to be two similar incidents within the 24 or 48-hour time period. But that was a situation where we talked with the family almost on a daily basis. And then the media in St. Louis, they got hold of it, and you can all see from how Ferguson was when the media got involved in it. This was a big dog and pony show. The media wanted to report every day at a particular time to know where we were at with the investigation. Turned out that the girl was killed, and the second girl was also killed, not related to each other. But that was a 2-week investigation, and we talked to the family on a daily basis. Now, once the girl's body did turn up, we continued that investigation. We scaled back on manpower, and actually that investigation still has a detective assigned to it. That case has never been solved. And we check with the family, or the detectives check with the family. I don't know if it's a weekly, monthly basis anymore, but there's strong evidence in that crime. So at some point in time, the perpetrator will be arrested. It's just a matter of identifying who he or she is.
Interesting. Interesting. Now, then you go from, as you said yourself, putting them in jail to getting them out of jail, working with your dad. I'm sure everyone's seen the show Dog the Bounty Hunter, and I've always tried to figure out the math on this whole bounty hunting business. If a guy has a $100,000 bail, just for instance, they only have to put up, is it 10% or 20% of that? Is that how that works?
It depends on the case, the jurisdiction, and the judge. In the St. Louis area, let's say there's a $100,000 bond assessed. If that individual wants to put up $100,000, they can put that up with the courts. Now, by using a professional bondsman, the bondsman can guarantee the person's appearance, and the family would then pay the bondsman $10,000 for that guarantee. So basically, the bondsman is guaranteeing the money to the courts if the person would disappear, and his guarantee is worth 10% of the bond, or in St. Louis, be $10,000. So the family pays that bondsman $10,000. The bondsman goes to the courts and gives the courts a power of attorney, which is basically a check that they hold on to, making sure the person shows up for all of his or her court dates. As long as the person shows up for all the court dates, there's no issues. The bondsman pockets the $10,000, and then the guy goes to trial. He's either sent to jail or he's released at that point. Now, let's say the person figures, I did this crime. They're going to send me away for a long time. I'm hitting the bricks and running. So he goes on the run. He misses his first court date. The bondsman then goes to the judge and says, hey, John Smith took off. We've been working with the family in an effort to locate him. If you could give us 60 days, we'll try to have him here before your courts. The courts are generally pretty lenient with bondsmen, so they'll give you that extra 2 months to produce them in front of the judge. So now you've got 60 days to find him. If you don't find him in that 60 days and you go back to the judge, you can ask for more time, but they're not as apt to give you more time after you've already got an extension.
Okay.
So at that point, they may call what's called a judgment. If a judgment is issued against the bondsman then has to pay the full amount of money to the courts. So now the bondsman's got to write a check for $100,000 and give that to the courts. The bondsman will still try to find the person because they can get that money back if they get him back in a reasonable amount of time. But if it goes on for months and the person is not found and brought back into custody, the bondsman loses that $100,000.
And you had enough people appear, and obviously, you sold your business, so obviously it was a profitable business.
Yes.
But I see on the TV show, they go out, like the one guy in Colorado is always calling Dog and his family, his entourage, to come and do a, what do they call it?
A hunt?
Yeah, a hunt. They got to chase this guy down. It just seems like it. And they got all the big vehicles and all the fancy equipment. Seems like a lot of time and energy is expended because the guy got paid $10,000. He's on the hook. He could lose $90,000, and so this bounty hunter. Okay, so let's define. There's the bondsman, who would then hire the bounty hunter to go and find the guy that skipped. Now,
yes and no.
Are these always two separate people, or is it sometimes the same person?
Sometimes the same person. In Missouri, the Missouri Department of Insurance monitors the bail bond industry. And in Missouri, if you're a licensed bail bondsman, you're also cross-licensed as a bounty hunter. Now, there are people who are just licensed as bounty hunters, but they're not the ones who are going to post bond and get someone out of jail.
Right.
They're only going to be the ones that go out and hunt them down.
Mm-hmm. Now, so on a $100,000 bond, whereas the bondsman has been paid $10,000 to guarantee the bond, what would typically be paid to the bounty hunter if he can bring that guy in?
Well, it really depends on the relationship that you have. In most bounty hunts in Missouri, and again I'll quote Missouri, you're going to pay the bounty hunter anywhere from 5 to 10% of the original face amount of the bond. So if you've got a $100,000 bond, it's going to cost you between $5,000 and $10,000 to have him picked up. Now, if this is going to be a long hunt and it's going to be an out-of-state type thing somewhere across the United States, that rate may bounce up to $15,000. So where you've only collected $10,000 initially, you may be out of pocket for $15,000, but that's a whole lot better than $100,000.
Yeah, I was just going to say that beats the $90,000 that you never had in your hands.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, the bail industry, it really draws in kind of a seedy element. And unfortunately, you get a lot of people in it that are just looking to make some quick money and then get out of it. Now, on all bonds that we did, anything that was $10,000 or greater, I collateralized the bond. What I mean by that is, let's say I had a $100,000 bond. I've collected $10,000 from the family. I'm also going to hold a deed to their house in the event this person would run, because if they run, I can seize the house, sell the house, and then pay the courts the $100,000 bond. So I was really never on the hook for a large amount of money, because on the larger bonds I did collateralize those. So, and a lot of people won't do that. They'll say, well, I don't have a deed to a house, and you've got some unscrupulous bonds. You say, well, you know what? Then I'm just going to charge you $11,000 because I don't have any way to collateralize this. You're going to have to pay me an extra $1,000. Then when the person goes on the run, you're still on the hook for that extra, $89,000. And to me, it was a lot easier just to write better bonds, have good collateral, good co-signers, and track people down.
Oh, so in other words, you're saying that there's a law that says you can only charge 10%?
No. In Missouri, you can charge as much as you want.
Okay.
There's no set guideline or anything constitutional or statute-wise. But the going rate is $10,000. Now, when the economy tanked back in 2009, a lot of these bondsmen started doing credit bonds where, you owed the bondsman $10,000 and they would take $5,000 up front and you make payments on the other $5,000. So the industry changed quite a bit when all that happened. But I guess the upside of that is, as a creditor, you've got a pretty strong, way to make people pay. Either pay me or I put you back in jail. So you usually got paid. It was just a matter of putting people on these credit bonds.
So did you function as a bondsman or a bounty hunter or both?
Both. Now, when I first got into it, I did both. But then, as I grew the business, I had a team that I would send out, kind of like what Dog does. You have specific people that are assigned for pickups only. Unfortunately, GM and Chevy didn't give me those big fancy cars like they gave him. We took care of our own needs. But it was usually 3 or 4 people would go out. But you have to understand, in my business, because I wrote good bonds, because I collateralized, I only had 2% of the people on bond with me missed a court date. And of that 2%, 90% of those were just a phone call. You come and say, hey, you missed your court date. Yeah, I was out and I got high last night and I forgot about court. I'll go next week. So a phone call generally fixed that. So in the 10 years that I was in that business, I only had to pay one forfeiture, and it was a $10,000 forfeiture. Everything else was resolved long before it ever went to a judgment. So,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, what a colorful life. And so now, okay, it would seem as though between being a police officer and being in that bail bonds business and going on these bounty hunts, that you've lived a life of an adrenaline rush, and without trading, you kind of throw that switch off. Now, trading has a tendency to throw that switch on and put people in fight or flight status, which is not good for you and not healthy. So the time that you had between selling your business and becoming a trader, was it difficult for you to flip that switch and to be calm and to be peaceful and to not be out, chasing somebody?
Yes and no. Going from that type of an atmosphere, and I had 26 guys working for me at one point in time. So you go from being a boss of all these people to basically managing yourself, and
which can be tougher than managing 26 other people.
Exactly, because with other people you just tell them what you want done and they either do it or they don't. When you do it with yourself, it's like, well, I have all these reasons why I shouldn't do this or I should do that. So when I first got into this way back when, the emotional side of it was really tough. And then when I got with CFRN, I experienced a lot of the same things. A lot of the, well, should I get in this trade or shouldn't I? Or then I get into a trade and I have butterflies in my stomach and I have sweat pouring down, my hands on the mouse and my hands sweating all over the mouse. It's like, holy cow. And then I had my first one-on-one with you, and that's when you had recommended that I read the...
You were a guy that used to be out chasing, bad guys, thugs, looking down the wrong end of a barrel and all this kind of stuff. And Here you are trembling with your hand on a mouse, yeah?
Yeah, I think the difference there was, when I was doing all of that out in the field, I'm making $25 or $30 an hour.
Mhm.
I'm sitting here trading, and I have the potential of losing, even with a one contract, $80 in a matter of seconds, and it just, I guess to me that was a much more stressful thing than worrying about, somebody shooting at me or jumping out of the bushes and trying to grab me. I was trained on what to do in that situation. In this situation, this was all new to me, and I hadn't got through my training yet, and it's like I'll be honest, I was as nervous as a prostitute in church. Yeah.
It is nerve-wracking, and that's what as I begin to work with people from day one, it's like you've got to get a hold of your emotions, and you've got to stay in sim until you're consistently profitable. And even though you're consistently profitable, when you first go live, that trade that you put on, if you're using an 8-tick hard stop, which is what we preach, teach, and do, I mean, that's $100. Now,
Mhm.
you might go out to dinner with your wife or significant other, and it's Valentine's Day or it's your anniversary or it's a birthday, and you might drop $100 on dinner, and you don't sweat that. It's not a big deal. But you get behind that mouse and $100 is on the line, and everything changes. I mean, you're stressed. So I try to teach people to, you've got to separate yourself from your emotions, leave the emotions outside the office door, put them in the basket. It's the only way you're going to learn to be successful over the long haul is if this can't be a roller coaster, it can't be a joyride. You've got to become, part man, part machine. And you can't, now rather than me talk about, how did you do it? Let's just cut to the chase. How did you get control of yourself and your emotions?
Well, I read the book by Mark Douglas, and that helped a lot. When I first started reading that book, I thought, he's writing this book to me. I'd go through these chapters. I said, this is exactly what I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
And so that was very helpful. Having you and Michael both as a resource was also very helpful. And then you just kept pounding in our heads, stay in sim till you're ready, stay in sim till you're ready. And I used sim. I was in sim last week. I had a horrible week last week. It seemed like the market wasn't doing anything. I was getting frustrated. I was losing lots of money. One day, I think I was down $2,200.
Okay.
So I was back in sim Friday and Monday of this week. I worked out what I was doing, and the last couple of days have been very successful for me. And I sent my pictures off to Michael. I said, what am I doing, Mike? I'm missing something. What's going on? And he responded. He sent back reasons and thoughts and things to look for, and it really helped. So once you get out of sim, there is no shame in going back, especially when it's costing you money and you've got to find out what you're doing wrong before you wind up wiping your account out.
See, that's something that I try so hard to get across to people, that going from live back to sim is no walk of shame. It's a smart business decision. It makes no sense to bleed out on the trading floor when you can step back into the safety of sim and figure out, okay, what is it? Because as you said, you have the ability to make, when you work your way up to the 10 contract level, we've all done the math a million times, 2 points in the S&P at the 10 contract level, that's $1,000 a day. It's $250,000 a year before you pay your commissions. If you're talking about 2 points a day net in the S&P, well, then that's just $250,000. So the ability to make the money is there, but the same ability to lose the money is there. And so when you realize that things are not right, they're not, something's just not meshing, then going into sim, I was so glad to hear you say that last week when you had encountered a problem and you followed what we teach. And what we teach is get back into sim, troubleshoot, figure out what the issue is. Am I doing something wrong? Is it simply the market conditions? You didn't go off the deep end. You didn't start shooting from the hip. You didn't revenge trade. You didn't make any of the typical mistakes that I myself was guilty of making so many times over the course of the years until I kind of got a hold on myself, got a grip, so to speak. And so what was that like? What was it like working through that experience, and how are you feeling this week?
Well, the book talks about when you're in sync with the market or you're in the zone, and I believe there's a lot of truth to that. Thursday and Friday of last week, I felt like every trade was a fight. I'd get into a trade, and as soon as I get into the trade, I was finding the tops and the bottoms and going the wrong way every time. I wish I could do it on a regular basis. I just flip the trade around.
Mm-hmm.
But at 6 contracts, and I've worked myself up to 6 contracts now. One losing 8-tick trade is $500 plus on your with your commissions.
Right.
So I had four losses in a row. I'm down $2,000 quick, like really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a winning trade, 1 or 2 ticks, another losing trade. So it was going fast. So when I got to the 20, I think it was $2,400 I was down. I'm like, you know what? I just got to walk away. My daily loss was set at $2,500 based on my business plan. I hit the 24. I put it aside. I went back to my charts. I looked at the charts, and I figured some of the stuff out myself that I was doing, but I sent them off to Michael for review. He responded quickly, so I was back in Sim. I lost Wednesday and Thursday. I was back in Sim on Friday, back in Sim on Monday, trading live yesterday and today. So, and trading yesterday and today, what was I up today? I was up 50 ticks today. So,
Nice job.
It was a good day.
Good job. A couple questions. Yeah, go ahead. No.
I was going to say that in the last 2 days, all I've done is white bar trades. I've not done anything else. And with my Indian name of White Bar Jim, I was kind of going to go through that in some detail today, but I think we're just about out of time. So,
I'm sorry, say that again?
I say I was going to go through the white bar trades in great detail today for anyone listening.
We're down to I've got some extra time if you do. If you want to pick up on that next week, because we did agree on, I don't want to impose on you. I want to keep you for the long haul, and 1 day a week I think is good for you, right?
Yeah, and like I said, Wednesdays works for me because I'll just be my day of trading. I'll trade, I'll do the radio show, and then I'll do the partners meeting in the evening. So you've got me as long as you need me. I just don't want to impose if you have other things you need to cover.
No, I know that the audience wants to hear a little bit about the white bar trade, and so let's go ahead. We're here. Let's dig in. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Okay. Can you give me the charts and I can put some stuff up?
Absolutely. Okay. I sure can.
Is there any questions anybody has about any of the homicide or bail bond or private investigation? Anything anybody wants to address before I change topics and move on?
Yeah, any of that, guys, if you have it, go ahead, put it into the chat box, and I'm going to switch these charts over. Okay, you should have the charts now. You'll have to accept it.
All right, can you see my screens?
I can see 2 small screens, and I see your desktop.
All right, that's my son there behind the screen. But let me put the let's start with the euro.
Actually, good. Now, I'm not sure if I can ask a question. Yeah, Jerry, you can. Jim, I recently qualified for a concealed carry permit. I'm thinking of taking my gun to church with the idea of being prepared for lone wolf terrorists. What's your thought on that?
You know what? We have a carry conceal in Missouri, and I think there's a time and a place for that. And unfortunately, the chances of a lone wolf attack in a religious, faith-based, anything like that type atmosphere are very, very slim. Unfortunately, this person, I'll just use the word person, that opened fire down in South Carolina was an isolated incident. And if you feel like you need to bring a weapon to church, I think you're probably attending the wrong church. I don't know that there's any need for it there. If the church feels that there's going to be some type of incident, they should hire a security guard to stand out front or an off-duty police officer to avoid that. To me, when you're in church and you're praising God, I don't think a gun strapped to your hip is the best thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there are places for that. I think there is a need for that. I just don't think church is the right place. And you'd have to check with your church because most jurisdictions, most churches, most businesses have a no conceal weapon sign posted on their front door. And if you bring it in there, you're subject to arrest because you violated the statute of carrying where you're not supposed to.
Gotcha. Okay,
any more questions?
Good answer. Let's see. There was a question, there was a comment earlier about somebody who, let's see, about 20 years ago, this is from Reg, he already left, I was working in Russia, talked to a guy there, and his only experience with America was the movies. Said he never wanted to visit there because there was always shootings in the airports. Yeah, that kind of thing just, you know, doesn't happen. So, not so much. If there was as much gunplay in real life as there is on TV and the movies, I think we'd all be dead. So
This is true. So.
John C. says, we maintain someone with firearms at our church, but we live in Tennessee. It's acceptable here. So in other words, you've got like one guy, like a security guy that is sort of in charge, you know, considering what happened and what could happen. In fact, after that incident in South Carolina, the following Sunday, we were having church, and a Maricopa County deputy pulled up into our parking lot and stepped inside, and the assistant pastor was there. Service was underway, and the officer said, just wanted to check in on you folks and make sure everything's okay. And we said, yeah, everything's good. And he goes, all right, if you need us, let us know. And he was back into his car and gone. I think that was sort of the order of the day for them, to patrol and check in on the churches. So, yeah, what a tragedy that was. All right. James B. says, I'm at 4 contracts and it's a challenge. James, when you say it's a challenge, are you referring to the emotions? Is that where you're coming from with that? And let's go ahead, and as you type in the answer, because I know it takes a few minutes, James also has questions on partial fills. Let's see. Okay, I'm at 4 contracts and partial fills. That's where James has his question. Okay. Now you're at 6. What markets are you trading, and are you getting partial fills? Is that happening with you?
Yes, I am getting partial fills. And I'm trading, the 3 that I'm trading the most are going to be the Russell, crude, and the euro. I trade the soy. Well, I'm trading the soy based on some of the stuff that I've gone through with you, Dwayne, but not so much on the white bars. Mm-hmm. The white bars don't seem to work as well on gold for whatever reason, but I did make, how many ticks did I make on gold today? I did make 20 ticks on gold today using it. I don't trade the ES. I just watch the ES to try and dictate what's going to happen on the Russell. So I'm watching the same 6 markets that Michael is watching, but I'm trading 3, 4 at the very most. And I had to work up to that. When I first started, I had enough trouble watching one market as opposed to 5 or 6. So,
now, when you're watching that many markets, what dictates which market you're going to trade?
Right now I'm trading only white bars. So it's pretty easy to scan across 6 charts and see a white bar developing. Once the white bar develops, I'll kind of key on that market and get my my entry put on the DOM. So if it goes the way I need it to go, it'll pick me up as it goes.
Okay. Are you using the auto trailing stop? Are you manually moving your stop?
I'm using a different broker because my fees are so much less. And my broker does have an automatic trailing stop that I do use. Now, one thing that I'm playing with right now, instead of going to a break even at 4 ticks, if I get in the trade with a tick of slippage, I'm going to break even at 3 ticks. Like if I put my entry at, say, 49.30 on crude, and I get in at 49.40, I put my break even at 3 ticks, because once it paints that complete 4-tick bar, I want to be back at break even. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what I have up on the screen now, these are the rules I've put together for my trading with the white bars. In working with Dwayne last week, I've added this number 4 here on the bottom, talking about the trades, and I'm going to show you this. I call it the ideal trade setup with the white bar. And basically what it is in a long trade, if the bar closes after the white bar is above the blue CFMA1, and that blue CFMA1 is rising, and the entry is above the BBC, that's a great trade. Same thing on the short side. I'm going to bring, let's see if I can leave both of these on the screen at the same time. Scoot that one over, and I'll bring, this is the euro from today, if I can get it to drag up there all the way. There we go. This is the euro from today. And what I'm talking about, let's see, I think it was yesterday. Sorry, I should have been prepared.
No, that's all right. No,
Let me
you're
get
good.
back to yesterday morning, because I think yesterday morning had a really good example that I want to show. Well, maybe not. Okay, I lied.
Yeah, Michael, in answer to your question, that is on a 4-tick range chart.
Yeah, everything that we're looking at is going to be a 4-tick range. Here's some of my issues from the other day. Stop out after stop out.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to show bad stuff though. Let's see. Well, where is it?
Now, it looks like those were short trades. Were you shorting when the overall trend was up? Did you find that to be part of the problem at all?
That was part of the problem.
Okay.
And like I said, I think I've corrected those issues now. Okay, so what I'm saying here, you've got a white bar here. So you're looking for the close on the bar following the white bar. This bar closes up. It's closed up above a blue CFMA1 that's rising at a strong angle. You've got a blue in the cycle here in the slingshot also rising at a good angle. So this makes a good one. You're also above the BBC. So this run here, you get into that trade, you're at 4, 8, 12. That's about a 16-tick move right there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what this rule talks about over here, the ideal trade setup. Now, there was one this morning. Let me get back to today. And this one from this morning is the opposite of that ideal trade setup. You've got a close after the white bar, but your close is above a blue CFMA1 that's climbing. You're above the BBC. You've got blue in the cycle down here. So I didn't take this trade. Even though it's a close past a white candle, I didn't like the setup on it. Had I got into this, I would have got in at 913. I'd have been one tick from a stop out. And it went the way I wanted it to go eventually, but that's just not pretty enough for me. And when you start looking at this and following this CFMA1, this thing is really a telltale sign of what's going to happen. So I waited from this trade, which was at 7:30. I got one here about 27 minutes later, which is a much better trade. Again, you're above the BBC on the entry. Blue is climbing. Blue in the cycle. Above the BBC. Boom, nice trade. And you could have actually got in on this bar here, but this one was touching the blue line, so I waited until I was above the blue line before I got into the trade. I gave up 4 extra ticks I could have gotten, but fortunately this trade just seemed a lot better to me. So actually, I go through the rest of this with you. This is my first trade. Here, this is a break even. This is after the market's open. I'm sorry, first trade after the market's open. Break even. I had a blue bar closing down after a white bar, another break even. Now, Euro didn't do much today, and I put this mark here to look left. Let me open this up. You still there, Dwayne?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay. I put this box in here to look left because it seemed to me it was hanging up at this level. Well, I've got resistance here, and as Dwayne says, let's go back a little further. And here's a little trick that I don't know if many of you know. Dwayne taught me this a long time ago. When you've got a cross of the BBC and the CFMA1, these crosses, somebody's taking control of the market. So in this situation here, buyers took control here and pushed it up. If you look all the way across, that still is what Dwayne calls hidden resistance. So it came back to that number again, buyers took control. Came back again, buyers took control. They've done this all day long. So I thought, well, there's no way that I want to play with that. So I just backed away from trading all these white bars here until I was significantly away from this level or significantly below this level. So you see, had I taken this one, this would have been
That
a
right
nice
there,
one.
what you just said, see, that kind of patience and discipline. See, traders, we have in our head that we just need to know the exact perfect entry, but you have to look at that bigger, like what, gosh, to encapsulate that, every trader should encapsulate that hanging on their wall, is that I recognize that conditions in this area were not right, and so I had to wait until I got out of that area, until I was free of those constraints. So I'm glad we got it on tape. Go ahead.
Okay. So I got above the area here, so had I had a white bar in this area, I could have gone long. I've got a white bar below this area, but I feel like I'm still too close here. So I waited, and then I've got resistance here. I draw another, and I don't have the weekly trading zones on here for the Euro, but you can pretty much figure these out on your own. If you start going further back, let's see. I've got these drawn in here. Let me shrink this down a little bit. Hang on. These are not the weekly trading zones that Dwayne put out, but these are the ones that I have drawn in myself, and you can see how things go through these, stop by these, held by these, through here, back through it, back up to it, back down to it, back to it, it holds it. Like he says, these have a magnetic attraction to them, and it holds price. Back down to this level, So you can see when you, and these are some of my stop outs from the other day. You can see that these areas hold price, and until you get through them, and you can see where price is going, it doesn't make much sense to put your money on the line. Let me get back over to the current time now. And see where we're at. Okay, so now that we've gotten through this level, we've gone down here, hung around here, came to the low of the day. I wouldn't have taken this one because it's a doji, and if you saw my rules, I don't take a doji after the close, after a white bar. This one here, you would have bought here. That's a nice run there. See how far that one went up? This one here, this would have been a buy opportunity.
You want to back up and cover that doji rule again just real quick?
Yeah. Anytime that a doji follows a white bar, I avoid the trade. And looking at this over an extended period of time, the dojis don't usually work out. And you can see had I sold here, it went down, I would have dumped the trade at this point anyway. Let me see if I can get the rules back up there again. Okay, you can see here, when a doji bar closes following the white bar, you avoid that trade. This exception here, if a second white bar paints before 4 ticks of profit and that white bar or color bar following that white bar closes against me, I dump the trade. So I've got a white bar here. This is my indicator that a trade's coming. This doji says, no, 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 avoid that trade. Now, had this been a close up or something, let's say it closed up, telling me to go up, and then this one closed down, I'd have dumped it on this trade. So I would have only lost 4 ticks as opposed to a full 8-tick stop out. I'm just trying to limit the stop outs. Now, once I had this second bar, this indicates a new trade is coming. So this up close here told me go long, so you can see that's what is that, 6, 10, 13, 17. That's a 21-tick move right there. Realistically, you probably would have gotten at least 10 of it if you were going with the tops of your closes. You would have stopped out here, but that's still 10-tick pickup. So.
Beautiful.
So anyway, so the second white bar will take me out of a bunch of trades. I dump those trades, and then down here with the CFMA1, this is actually helping me pick out some better trades. I know a lot of times in the room people are asking about the triggers. These are my settings that I use. And then when I come in each morning, what I do, I guess, can they take a picture of this one like they can in the other workshops?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
If anybody wants to take a picture, I'll leave that there for a second. That way you have those rules. And these are my rules. You can develop your own rules if you're seeing something else. I've been playing with multiple white bars, and it doesn't seem to work as well. The single white bar seems to be the best indicator. Like if you have 2 white bars and then a color bar, it's about a 50-50 proposition. This is working about 78% of the time with a single white bar. So it's got some good results for me. All right, so what was I going to do? Oh, let me close this down. Well, I won't close it. I'll just move it out of the way. Do it this way. All right, so this is the Euro market. Let me bring up the crude. Crude I traded quite a bit on today. I think I did. Let's see. Yeah, crude I had 7 trades today. And I'm only trading between 8:30 and 10:30. This gray area.
Eastern or Chicago?
That's Central Time, Central Chicago time. All right, so I'll go through this with everybody and show you what I've done here. Okay, markets first opened here at 8:30, right in this area here. No white bars. I just waited. Now, these are other trades you can take also. I mean, you've got your 137s, your 164s. This is a 164 long here. You picked up a few ticks, but Michael went through all that with everyone at the meeting yesterday. Now, I've got a down close here. Bought the close here. Closed down, so that tells me I'm going in the right direction. Closed down. So this, I picked up 9 ticks on my first trade today. Over here, I didn't take
your
this
entry.
trade.
Okay, walk us through that last trade again. The one where you picked up 9 ticks.
Let me blow that up a little bit for you. You can see it better. Okay, so I've got a white bar painting. When this bar starts painting, I bring my DOM up and I put my buy and sell on at this point here. So this bar closed up, so I know 4 ticks up, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have my grid set at 4 ticks, so I know where I'm at on my grid. So I put a buy 1 tick higher at 49.94, and I put a sell 1 tick lower at 49.84. So that's where I initially put them. As this bar paints, I'll adjust those to a five ticks away. So when this bar went up one, I had to move my sell up one more to 49.85. So I get my sell on. I sold this at 49.86. This confirmed I'm going down. This confirmed I'm going down. And the way I chase price is I go to where each bar closes. So at the close of this bar, actually I went to break even in this bar. Then I went 2 ticks and locked it in here at 84. When this bar closed, I locked in at 80. When this bar closed, I locked in at 77. So I got taken back out when it pulled back on me, but you can see I got 9 ticks out of that trade.
Now, those 2 white bars after the blue bar, those don't contradict the trade in any kind of way?
No, because had this bar closed up, this white bar closed up, I would have dumped the trade.
Gotcha.
So I was in the trade at 49.86. Had this bar closed up at 49.88, I'd have got out of that at 88 or 89, so I would have only lost 3 ticks, because that tells me the trade's going against me. I don't want to be in this trade anymore. So, but by closing down, it's going in the direction I need it to go. Now over here, let's see. I didn't take these, but I don't know why I didn't take them. I was probably looking at the crude at that time. This one here, I didn't take this long here. This would have been a long. I didn't take it because I'm going against my rule here, the CFMA1. This is red and coming down hard. This is red and starting to turn down. The brown line's turning down into the green line. So this is telling me, and I'm well below the BBC. This is telling me this is probably not going to go up. So when it closed, I avoided that trade. I figured I'll wait for the next one. So I wait for the next white bar here. I got in this one bad. I got slipped going into this one. We talked about the slippage before. So I got slipped going in here. By the time I got to break even, I only got 3 ticks out of that trade. Based on that was on this pullback here. Had I been a little bit more patient, I probably could have got a little bit more out of the trade because it did wind up going, how far did we go? 95 up to 509. So it went up 14 ticks, and I only got 3 of it. But that's I got too aggressive chasing the price as it was going. Okay, so dump trade with 2. Oh, this one I got into, and when I originally did this, I refreshed my screen, so I've got a white bar that wasn't normally there. But I went long here, but then I realized I was only a few minutes away from the inventory trade, and I didn't want to be in a trade during the inventory trade, so I dumped this. I got 2 ticks of profit out of it, but I dumped that trade because at 8:30 or 9:30 my time, you all know what happens.
Yeah.
So this gray area is the inventory. I do not trade the inventory trades. Back when I first started trading with CFRN, I did trade inventory, and I was just getting smacked around on it. I had a long conversation with Bert. He says, you know, Jim, you're being profitable without doing it. Why do it?
That's right.
So I'm like,
it's more of a gambling. It's more of a gambling type thing than it is anything else. I mean, if you're on the right side of it, yeah, sure, you can do great. But the thing is you can be on the right side of it, still get knocked out, and it's not worth the gamble. Right. Yeah.
So, and like I said, I made 60 ticks today. So why do I want to be involved in this when it can? And if it jumps your stop, I mean, you could have catastrophic losses. And at 6 contracts, it adds up really quick. So, all right, let me get out. And I'll always wait 5 minutes after the inventory trades before I do anything else in that market. So here we are at 9:36. We're out of the inventory trades. We've got a white bar. This one closes down. I get into this one, move my stop, takes me out with 3 ticks profit. Again, had I been patient, look what I missed out on, 34 ticks. I missed out on all that because this little tail right here, this little weasel right here came back and got me, unfortunately.
Now, when you say if you'd have been patient, talk to me about that.
Well, I don't deviate from my rules. So my rules, I'm going to break even at 3 or 4 ticks, depending on where I get into the trade at.
Okay.
This one I got into right. I got into this trade at 50.01.
Okay.
So when I hit 4 ticks profit, I went to break even and quickly moved up to lock in 3 ticks at the close of that bar because I'm below the black step line. So this tells me I'm below the BBC. This tells me it's probably going to keep going down. So I quickly move I lock in 3 ticks of profit. It takes me out right here on this pullback. It goes back another 6 tick drawback, and then it takes the big move that I was hoping for. But because I'm not going to deviate from the rules because they're working for me,
that's right.
I missed out on those 34 ticks.
Rules-based trading, you got to stick to the rules. If you don't, then you have chaos. You have nothing.
Because what would have happened here is if if I got into this trade here and I get my 4 ticks of profit and I don't move it, well, now I'm 4 ticks down. If it keeps going, I'm going to lose 8 ticks on the trade. So I would rather make a little bit than lose anything. So
That's
I
right.
missed out on 34 ticks there. Okay, this one I missed. I
This
was doing
circle,
something else.
what happened with the circle here?
The circle means it's one that I missed. So I was either looking at another market or stepped away for coffee or whatever. So I missed that trade, but it was a good one. You know, you got in here at 49.80, and that went a full. That's 9 ticks. You could have picked up at least 4 or 5 of it before you got a pullback. So I missed that one. This one closed up again. I think I was getting coffee because I missed this whole area here. And now this one was this is 2 bars, so we wouldn't have got into this one anyway. Now this one here, this one closed down, then this one closed up. So I would have dumped that trade anyway. So when this trade indicated an up close here, I'd have got in 49.75, 49.76, somewhere in that area, depending if there was any slippage. So I'm going long. Then this bar closed down, I'd have dumped it. I'd either dumped it at 73 or 74. So I'd have had a
So you're gonna go long even though you're below the CFMA1 and the VVC.
Well, I've got blue in the cycle telling me it's probably going to go long. I've got blue in the cycle up here. So this is a little bit better trade than if this was all red. So I would take this trade. I'd take this trade based on the blue in the cycles. So, and you can see if I'd have got into it, if these wouldn't have turned white on me, it did what we wanted it to do. But because I got a long here and a short here on a new white bar, I'd have dumped this trade. And then the double white bar, so I would have avoided this.
Gotcha.
So I wouldn't have gotten that. All right, over here, I didn't get this one. Don't know why, but that would have been a long opportunity there.
Nice long, yeah.
And then where are we at here? Let's see. Bring that down a little bit.
See, a couple questions. Let's see. Does Jim prefer the currency markets? I don't. Have you shown us a currency market yet?
I'm just starting to use the YM, but I'm only in sim trading.
Now, I mean, I think he's referring to by currency markets. He's referring to the euro or the yen.
The euro was the first market that I showed. That's behind here.
Okay, that is the first one you showed. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So there's the euro. That's everything I did on euro today.
But that's the only currency market that you're trading, right?
Correct. Yes,
okay.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Iris had a question. I don't understand when you talk about grid that tells you the range of the bar. Where is this on the screen? Do you want to explain how you set that up?
Sure. If you see these white lines on here, I don't know if Dwayne or Michael has those on their chart, but each of these lines is a tick. If you look, let me make it bigger for you. Hold on.
I have mine. I have a grid on my chart, but I don't have it fine-tuned to a tick.
So you can see each of these lines here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Go to the bar. This bar here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So each of these grid lines just tells me where the ticks are at. It just helps me with my entries and my exit.
Now, when you scale your candles larger, smaller, does the grid scale with the candle?
Yes. See how it got bigger with the
candles? So where did you go in the properties to set up the grid?
If you go in here, up. Okay, here's my mouse here. You go to this little arrow up here on the right.
Right.
And you go down here to where it's got interval. See that? It's under your scale, and then go down to interval.
Scale. Mm-hmm.
And then on this particular market, it's the euro, and you've got 0.000. What are the decimals here? 40. So you have to have 4 and then a 1. So you can see how that's changes your grid. Now, like if I go to soybeans, let me bring the soy chart over. This is soybeans because it's also got 4, but it goes by quarter ticks. So if I go back in there on this one, it'll be different. Where are we at here? Scale. Hold this down. Am I blind in my old age here? Do you see it, Dwayne? There it is.
No, I get lost in here.
Here it is. So the interval on soy is 0.025 because this goes in quarter points. 99.25, 99.50, 99.75 on up. So that's got to be by 25 on your intervals. And you can see 4 ticks, 4 lines. And like I say, all that does is it helps me with my entry because I'm trying to get in and out quick when a white bar is painting. I want to know where I need to be, and those just help me get my numbers lined up.
Iris, you understand?
I can open that up again if you want to snap
No,
a
I
picture
think
of
I
it.
think you showed
Got
that
it?
you showed that well. Now, James B asked a question. Jim, I know you touched on it, but maybe you could expand. You're trading crude with 6. I trade it with 4, and about 20% of the time I'm getting partial fills, which really messes up my totals. How do you deal with it?
When you say you're getting partial fills with 4, are you only getting filled with like 2 contracts, or are you getting slippage? Because there's a difference. I'm getting slippage, but I'm getting a full fill, but where I may put an order in, like let's look at this candle here.
So
I put an order.
I think what James is saying is that he has an order in for 4, but he only gets filled on 2 or 3.
And I don't know if that's a DOM issue or what that is, but whatever you're getting filled at.
Well, it might be that your guys are entering the market differently. How are you entering the market?
I'm entering with a touch of market.
Market if touched?
Yes.
Market if touched. Okay, see, James, you're entering on a limit. That's the difference right there.
So whatever you're getting filled at, let's say you put 4 on, you only get filled with 2. Just make sure that you're trailing with 2 and just take the 2 ticks. I mean, 2 contracts is better than no contracts. But as far as me, I'm getting slippage. I'm getting full fills, but I may be getting slipped a tick or 2. Now last week, I don't know if there was a problem with gain capital or what, but I was getting all kinds of slippage. I got into one trade and I had 4 ticks of slippage on it. And at that point, that's your profit. That's where I should be at break even. So because of that, I immediately threw my stop to break even and got out of the trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in volatile markets, that will happen, guys. That's just a part of trading, and that's something that you have to accept, that from time to time the market will make fast moves, and it's even in the open outcry pits, when things just start to happen fast, if you weren't the taller, stronger, bigger, louder guy, you didn't get an order, you didn't get a fill. Now, back to you, James B. You understand market if touched, correct? See, market if touched means if he's got an order in for 6, okay, he's going to get filled. There's no guarantee he's going to be filled at a certain price. It's just he's going to be filled. Whereas you are saying with your limit order, I demand this price. And so the market can only give you 2 or 3 contracts at the price you demand. Jim's not demanding a price. Jim's just saying, I want to be long, or I want to be short, and I'll take whatever price you give me. So he's putting himself at the mercy of the market, but he's building that. But that's built into his overall trade strategy, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And one thing I want to talk about, and we've talked about this in the past, when you first sit down in the morning, you're going to need to load about 2 weeks of data. And once you've done that, don't play with it. As you can see on my chart now, and this is a crude chart, there's no white bar here between the blue and the green. Now, if I refresh this, if I right-click and I go to data, and I refresh my screen, well, you see what happened now? Look at all the extra white bars I've got. Now I don't have my data is not valid. So now it screws up several of my trades. So you set it in the morning, kind of like the old Aquanet commercial. You set it and forget it.
Mm-hmm.
So just set it in the morning when you sit down and leave it alone.
Right.
Because now, see, now I have no trade here. Before I had 2 trades. Now with the double white bar, I don't have a trade. Triple white bar, no trade. So you leave it alone once you get it set in the morning.
How do you gauge your 2 weeks? Do you just slide the bar back until you are about 2 weeks back in
grab
time?
it and go back. Just go back 2 weeks on it, and then when it gets done loading, and mine's slow today. I don't know what the problem is, but when it gets done loading, see how slow it's going. Slingshot's in. Bars haven't colored up yet, and then once they color, this will take a while, especially since I'm on the webinar, but
sure.
You can go into data, and once you get drawn back 2 weeks, just put load more data, and you get a little thing spinning around. When it's done spinning and everything populates, then just drag it back to the end, and you can start. Whoops, I didn't do it. Start trading from that point. That's how I get my 2 weeks of data. And now you can see these numbers. These are here now because I refreshed it and because I went back and loaded more data. But these were not here originally when I put my 2 weeks in from this morning. So whatever happened during the day today, it's changed what these candles have done. So, and I'm not trading this time of the day. That's why I wanted to show you. If you refresh it, it's going to give you new data, and it's not as helpful for you.
Gotcha.
And I don't trade past 11 o'clock. I may trade up to 11 o'clock depending on what the markets are doing, but I use the time after I get done trading to kind of go back through my charts, and sometimes I'll go eat lunch and check my charts later, but at least at some point every day I go back and I review my trades and see what the market's doing. I don't come in initially and just sit down and go. I'll come in, I usually sit down at 7:30 in the morning, Central Time. I'll say my prayer, I'll spend some time with God. I'll put on my concierge levels. I'll see which markets are trending and what they've been doing overnight. And then by the time I get all that done, it's close to 8:30, then the market's open and I'll start trading.
Gotcha. Guys, a routine, having a routine like he just talked about. Your routine does not have to be identical to his routine. Oh, and people get very granular with that kind of thing. Oh, okay, well, you read some scripture every morning. Well, what scripture did you read today? Oh, see, I should have read that scripture. I bet if I'd have read that scripture, I'd have. See, don't get that granular, guys. Rules are rules. It's good to have rules. That's what this is all about, rules-based trading. Have rules, stick to the rules. Okay, but there's certain areas where, now again, Jim came in, picked up the CFTC. It had been in our toolbox since the beginning. We used to use it. I used to on every radio show back in the beginning. Well, we've had a couple of we've recreated ourselves a couple times, but going back 5 years, 4.5, 5 years, I would open up the show every day and I would have an hourly chart of the S&P just like I do every day now, but I had the CFTC running. And what I was looking for, and now, will it mess anything up on your chart if you go to an hourly time frame? Will it mess you up in any kind of way?
No, I'll have to stretch it out a little bit for you, but I can do that. Whoops, that's 4 hours. We don't want that much. 1 hour. Let me stretch it back down a little bit.
With the drawing objects, it may. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Guys, see that white, that lone white bar there? Now that's a transition candle. Now we had not. Jim developed the isolation of the single white candle, but we would, if you can scroll left just a little bit. This is an hourly candle, and so this was just giving us a bigger picture view of. We'd see on that pullback to the BBC, there was some transition. We'd go white, blue, white, blue, white, blue. And then as we started to break to the downside on that hourly, we would figure that we had, some pretty good room to run. And then it's leg retrace. On the retrace, we expect to get some transition looking candles as we do there. Now, on that lone white bar on the hourly, would that have put you in a long trade or not?
Yes, it would have on the this candle here.
Yeah.
So you'd have gone long here, and as long as you stayed with it, I mean, you'd have made a fortune. How many ticks is it? Let's see. The entry is 862, and it goes all the way up to 975, almost 200. I'm sorry, almost 100.
Yeah. At 1250 a tick.
And then one thing I would say, and it's been very helpful for me, and hopefully it can be helpful for others, you have to develop that business plan, and you have to put it in writing, and you have to stick with it. Mine it seems to be in a constant state of change. As I learn more about the market, as I have one-on-ones with Dwayne and Michael, I change things in my business plan to encompass the different things that I've learned. My business plan started out as 1 page. I think it's up to 3 pages long now. And I don't mind. You want me to show it, Dwayne? Does that matter? Or?
Yeah, if you'd like to, sure. And it's the most important takeaway, guys, is that you have a business plan, that you have a trading plan. Okay.
And mine's upon this rock I shall build, and it specifies what I'm doing. I'm a day trader. I trade Emini futures only. It's a 4-tick range chart. These are the 7 markets that I'm trading. I trade between 8 and 11:30, but that last half hour is generally with me going through different trade setups. Now, this is my rule, and Dwayne and I have talked about this, but I don't expect anyone to do this. Once I reach my 10 ticks, I will continue on, but I'm only risking anything more than that. So if I get 16 ticks on my first trade, I'll only do a 6-tick stop until I get past that. If I ever go to where I get my 10 ticks and I lose back to my 10 ticks, I'm done. I walk away for the day. I'm risking my winnings to go further. This talks about the type of trades that I do: slingshot trades, long, short; partner trades, 128, 137s, inverted, 164s. These are when I put the CFTC bars. I added this. So when I first started, this is all I had were my slingshot trades, because, and then I think I said in here somewhere, as I learn more, I'll put more on. But then my partner trades, this is after I learned the partner trades. I added those onto my plan and what I do with those, and I follow those rules. My risk is never greater than 8 tick stop out. However, it may be lessened by the entry point of the trade above or below black step line. So these are reasons why I would negate an 8 tick stop out and make it less. When I put the CFTC bars on, I incorporated this into my business plan. When Dwayne introduced me to the concierge trade,
there you go.
Yeah, concierge. I put this onto my business plan. When I developed the white bars, I added this to my business plan. I identify my daily loss in a single day. Oh, see, I haven't updated this. I'm at 6 contracts now. It still only shows 5. So my maximum loss is 2,500. These are my mindset prior to trading. I spend time with God. I see what's on the chart, not what I want to see. I don't attempt to get revenge on the market. I accept the losses gracefully as a cost of doing business. That is the hardest one to overcome for me, is gracefully.
Mm-hmm.
I still cuss the market, just so you all know that. But anyway, that's what it's going to do to me. And I don't alter my business plan or make decisions while I'm trading. If I'm going to change something, I'm going to trade it the way
that is
I have
powerful right there. Yeah, listen to this, guys. You don't change your swing when you're at the plate. No.
So it's gone from a 1-page plan to 3, and I'll probably hit 4 before much longer. As I learn more, I try to do more. So, and this is my white bar. You all have that one. So, does anybody have any questions?
Guys, as much as this is a part of a community, because trading is a lonely business, and so while we, CFRN exists, first there was Christian Traders, ChristianTraders.com. That was another world, another lifetime. That site still exists, but it just points you over to the free trial on CFRN right now. All part of CT Global Media, but the point of having a community is so that we can come together, we can talk, we can share thoughts and ideas. We do that in the partners meetings, but there is still this personal journey that you're on. But you're on a personal journey, but you're not alone. Like so many traders are just out there alone. They're dependent on these forums and some of the other things that are out there on the internet. Jim, how much time a day do you spend hanging out on a forum, tooting your horn, telling people how good you did and how much money you made? How many hours a day do you spend on those forums?
23. No, I'm not on them at all.
Yeah, see there, guys, when you go onto these forums, the folks hanging out on the forums, unfortunately, they don't have the answer. That's why they're hanging out on the forum, hoping that they're acting like they got the answer, looking for somebody that really does have the answer. Traders are trading. They get their points and go. Jim has, now, again, he has certain hours, and he has rules about, once he reaches a certain point, he talked about all that. But you understand that while he's part of this group, part of this community, he's found his own niche inside of that. And that's how, if you try to be Michael, you're going to struggle until you stop trying to be Michael. If you try to be Jim, you're going to struggle until you stop trying to be Jim. You've got to figure out who you are, okay, what makes sense to you, and if Michael can find it, if I can find it, if Jim can find it, if Bert can find it, you can find it. But you have to find it within yourself and within your own journey. That's so important. Jim, we are out of time here, and so let's see what other questions, or we're just about out. Let's go see what kind of questions we have left in here. John says, Jim, thank you so much. Your business plan layout is great. Thank you for sharing that. Carson says, I'm very impressed with Jim. Excellent show, Dwayne. Thank you, Carson, for the kind words. Let's see. George, I think, has a question. How do you set the CFTC to make a white bar appear? George, that's probably beyond the scope of what we have time for here. You have to go through the whole, do you know how to install the CFTC indicator? Do you know how to turn the green and red candles off? Tell you what, if not, drop into the partners meeting tonight and we'll walk through that together, okay? John B. says, thanks, Jim and Dwayne. This was an excellent webinar. The Lord's blessing to you as well, John B. James, the sensitivity setting, I believe you've shown that a couple times, right, Jim?
Here, I'll bring it up again.
Okay.
Right here. Trigger settings for each market are right here.
There you go. Click that little camera, take a snapshot. James, little camera at the top of the webinar. Okay. All right. Michael, I think you've already gone. Michael R. in the UK, you said that duty calls, you got to go read. Okay, but it looks like you're still logged in. A market order will rarely give you a good price. Why is that? Oh, okay. Well, okay. I think that's a legitimate. You're asking a legitimate question. Because a market order, you're saying I just want to get filled. So with a limit order, you're saying I'm only willing to pay this much for this item. Or if you're the seller, or if you're looking to go short, okay, it's like you're at a yard sale and I've got this old lawnmower, and a guy walks up and says, well, I'll give you $10 for it, and you say, well, no, I won't sell it for less than 20. The guy goes, well, no, but man, I got $10 here, and I'd really love to get that old lawnmower. And you say, no, I'm not going to sell my old lawnmower for less than $20. The guy goes, come on, dude, take my 10. And you say, no, I want 20. That's a limit order. A market order says, oh, dude's offering 10, take it. That's why you don't get a good fill or a good price on a market order, because your $20 lawnmower just went for $10. That's the best analogy I could come up with off the top of my head. But I think that explains it in yard sale terms, which is kind of where I live. Jim, thanks so much for sharing. That's from Kenneth S. Ken, thank you for hanging out with us. Nathaniel, thank you for your kind words. Just a whole lot of thank yous out there. Guys, it is partners meeting tonight. All of you that are partners, please be there tonight with your questions. I don't know, are you coming tonight, Jim?
Yes, I'll be there.
Jim will be there tonight. So if you have, I know that some of you partners are going to want to go now. You're going to want to experiment with this. You're going to want to see what your charts look like. So you'll probably have some fresh questions tonight. That's great. We'll entertain those. If you want to email them ahead of time, you can do that.
If anybody wants to email me individually, I do have an email at jim@cfrn.net, and I should be caught up on all of those. So if you do have a question in there, I'll check that later today and respond to you. Beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of the show. Jim's going to be with us now each Wednesday from 1:30. We went over a little bit today because it was the maiden voyage, but we'll be here 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. Jim, thanks so much for being a part of the show.
Sure, not a problem. Thanks for having me, Dwayne, and good luck trading, everyone.
I'll see you tonight.
Thanks.
All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with his mercy and with his grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.
Hello and welcome to the Mind of a Trader. This is Steve Croft. I want to thank you for taking a few moments of your time today to enhance your trading, to find some tools that maybe can help you to increase your performance, your profitability, and even your enjoyment of trading. See, when trading the markets, we can't just sit back and wait for the profits to roll in. We have to take an active approach, a very positive, planned, well-designed approach. We've got to search the markets for different opportunities that help us